Abroad Pod.
Hello, I'm your host, Rowan Lomas, and this is the Teaching Abroad Pod. On this episode, I'll be speaking with a veteran China teacher who taught there for 4 years starting in 2019. She'll be able to tell us all about the highlights and lowlights of life in the Middle Kingdom and maybe some lesser known places to check out if you want to live like a local. So let's get to it. I'm happy to introduce Oxford Seminars graduate Tanetta. She completed the initial TESOL certification in the summer of 2018 and upgraded it with a teaching business English specialization module in January of 2019 before promptly departing for her first teaching role in China in March of that same year. She went on to teach in 3 different cities over 4 years. Tanetta also holds a bachelor's degree in English and Human Resource Studies from Guildford College in Greensboro, during which she completed a semester abroad in Shanghai. She also has experience working as an information technologist in the U.S. Navy and in the medical field. Welcome to the Teaching Abroad Pod, Tanetta.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, I noticed that you'd worked for quite a number of years in laboratory settings from about 2006 to 2019. What prompted you to get TESOL certified and change careers into teaching?
I was an adult student, adult college student. I was married at the time, had children that were in middle school, majored in a few different things, if I may be honest. And then I just, thought, what was I good at in high school? And English wasn't my favorite subject, but it was my best subject. So I decided to major in English. And in doing so, as a senior in Guildford College, we had to do an assignment in a class where we had to look up jobs that we would do with our majors after we graduated. So I looked up, I did research on what jobs I would obtain with an English degree. And that's how I stumbled on teaching English as a second language in a foreign country as an option. So I started researching that, and I actually did my report on that. And I just fell in love with the idea. And so by the time that I was about to graduate from Guildford College, I was separated. And at that point, my children were in high school. My daughter was about to graduate high school, and she soon went off to the military herself. So I was coming up on being an empty nester, and I was free to go. So that's how it happened. But before all of that, while I was still in Guildford College, I think it was the first year I was there was an opportunity for 13 students to go with one of our professors to China, Shanghai, China. And we actually had to write an essay as a pitch as to why we should be selected to go. It was a business class, and I was one of the ones selected to go. So that was in 2014. Went to China for a 10-day trip, business trip, and we visited American businesses in China, in Shanghai, China.
Awesome. So that was sort of part of what inspired you to go back to China, having been there already. Obviously, you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah. Yes. I felt while I was there, the group that I was with, they were taking a lot of pictures everywhere we went. I mean, we did a lot of things to do with the class that we were in because that was considered a class also. That trip was considered a class. We were graded on it. So we would go to different businesses and observe and tour. It was so much fun. And everyone was taking pictures. And every time we were at dinner, they were like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime experience. We got to take as much pictures as we can. And I didn't feel that way. For some reason, I just felt like I would be back there one day. And I at that time wasn't an English major yet. So I wasn't even thinking about going to teach there. But I don't know, it was just a feeling that I had while I was there that I would be back.
A
And
real
funny enough,
connection, a real
yeah,
connection
I
to
had a
that country.
connection. I had a connection.
Not once in a lifetime for your situation.
No.
And what cities did you teach in, and in which types of schools did you teach in when you were in China?
I first went to Wenzhou, China, and in Wenzhou, I taught in a language center. So the essentially the students would go to school, their regular school during the day, and then after school they would come to the language center from say anywhere from 2:30 all the way up to 10 p.m. We had running classes that were, if I can remember, about 90 minutes each with breaks and of course in between. So I taught there at a language center. I guess you would liken it to like a Sylvan Learning Center here in America,
Right.
how after school children will go there for help. That's what it was.
It was very
And
similar to my Hagwon experience in Korea, the 2 to 10 elementary,
mhm,
middle school students coming after school. Yeah, I
yes,
can relate.
yeah. hmm And then I left Wenzhou. I also in Wenzhou, China, taught at a international school. It was a boarding school. I did not live on campus. I live off campus, but they provided a bus because it was way out, what they consider in the country. It was far away from the city where most all teachers live, whether it was the foreign teachers or the Chinese teachers. So
Mm.
they provided big buses for us to ride back and forth to school. Then I left Wenzhou and went to Suzhou, China, and I taught at an international school there, which is also considered a boarding school. And I was given the option to live on campus or off campus. I chose to live off campus, it was nearby. And then I went to Juji, China, and that was the last place that I taught. And that was a boarding school in which I lived on campus.
Okay.
But this campus was amazing. It was like a college campus on steroids. It was like a small city,
Mm.
actually, because we had our own hospital, a few supermarkets on campus,
Wow.
theaters.
How many
Yeah, it was.
students were at that last
Oh,
school?
I don't know, but it was thousands. It was thousands because it went from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade.
Mm.
So
And were you a homeroom teacher or an English teacher that had like students came to you during the day?
I was an English teacher that went to the students' classrooms.
Okay.
So we had an office, a foreign teacher office that we, each had our own desk and we would be there doing lesson planning or grading, whatever notes you had to do in between classes. That was our home base. And then when the bell would ring, if you had a class, you would go off to them, to their class. Usually the students switch when the bell rang, they switch rooms and go to the class they need to go to. Our English class was the only one where we went to them.
Mm, interesting. Okay. And of those cities, which one would you say you liked best?
Well, I think I would have to say Wenzhou, my very first city, only because it is home base. It's the first one that I went to, and of course, it just felt like home because that's where I made the most friends. Friends in which I'm still very much in touch with today. So yeah, it feels like home. So it had to be Wenzhou.
Now take the city out of the equation. Which school did you like the best and why?
The school that I like the best probably would be the last one, Juji. It was actually called Hailang Foreign Language School. I love that one. I loved it. And I don't know if it's because I lived on campus, so I was really a part of the school culture in a different way other than just teaching. I think that did make a difference. Living on campus along with the students, even though the teachers' buildings were a little separate from where the students lived. They lived in dorms, like your typical college dorms. But the buildings that we lived in, the teachers, Chinese teachers and foreign teachers, the buildings looked like high rises that you would find in Manhattan or any of the boroughs, just tall apartment buildings right next to each other. So
Mhm.
it reminded me of New York and being back here at home. China as a whole feels like New York to me. Feels kind of like being in Manhattan or,
Wow.
the city. Yeah.
Now, living on campus with all the other teachers, did that make it easier to connect with new people and kind of make friend groups, as it were?
Um, it was easier to connect to the Chinese teachers doing that because, like I said, they lived in the same buildings as the foreign teachers. We were together in those buildings. And it wasn't just teachers, it was all staff, all faculty that chose to live on campus. That's where they lived. So I was able to get closer to the staff that way. But yeah,
I
but
guess
I
you
was
said you made a lot
closer
of great
to.
friends in Wenzhou as well. So
Yes, I was gonna say I was closer to people in Winjo as far as other foreign teachers went. We had a tight knit community. We were on group chats together, group chats dedicated to foreign teachers. We did a lot together. We were like family. You would hear and know of people before you met them, and vice versa. It wasn't a small city by any means. They considered it small in China because big city to them is 8 to 10 million people. We had about 2 to 3 million people in Wenzhou, but all over China they'll consider that small. They'll refer
yeah,
to it as small. And it was a large foreign teacher community, teachers from South Africa, from England, Canada, everywhere, America, and we celebrated each other's holidays from each other's countries. So we would do Thanksgiving celebrations and weddings, baby showers, birthdays. We did
nice.
we did it all.
So it had a real
Mhm.
community feel to it, even though by North American standards, a city of 2 to 3 million people is a pretty big city.
It's a big city, but whenever I would travel out and, Chinese people would talk to me if they knew English and they would ask where I was coming from and I would say Wenzhou and the first thing they would say, "Oh, small city." And I'm like,
Not
"Okay."
tier one, I guess.
No.
So, of all the places you've been around China, what places would you recommend? Would you say you just must visit this place if you're ever in China?
That's a good question, and it's a hard question only because it's so many wonderful places to visit in China. To be cheesy, I guess the Great Wall of China, like that is like, but there's so many little pockets of different little interesting places that uh any city that you visit in China, they have historical things for you to do. They have the big fun things that you can do, like karaoke, which they refer to as KTV. That's a big deal there. If you go to KTV in any city that you visit in China, you'll be fine. If you visit the countryside of any city you visit in China, you're gonna have fun. Like it's no bad time in any city. It's so many Buddhist temples and it's it's amazing. I don't know. I can't even like pinpoint or think of anything that I would say. We did do things like amusement parks and go-karts and you know, just things like that. But you have your historical monuments and architecture and things like that in every city in China. So wherever you go, you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
have a
just went to Beijing. That's the only place I visited, but it's got so much history to visit, of course, with the
Mhm.
Forbidden City and Summer Palace, and we went to the Great Wall at Simitai, which is a hike. I don't know how much of the Great Wall you did, but that was hard on my lungs, that hike.
Well, I did a decent amount, but I end up stopping at some point, and the person that I was with there, I let them go along, and I'm like taking video of them walking, and then we would call each other from opposite ends and wave. I had to stop at some point because it is grueling, and
Yes.
we went on the coldest day. It was in winter. We went on
Me
the
too.
coldest day of the year. I wore new boots and my feet were hurting so bad. Like
But you
that
don't
was
regret doing it, I guess.
no, I would do it again, but I would do it in sneakers,
Yeah.
very old sneakers.
That is a good advice. That is, yeah. It's a bit of a trek, but you'll not really do anything like it anywhere else, I guess.
No. Did you ride the thing over the what is the cable car?
No, we
You rode
just did
the
it
cable
all
car?
on foot.
Oh, that's why. We rode the cable car up to a certain point, they let us out, and then we just walked the stairs. Like we didn't hike up to the stairs or anything.
No, just
Which
cable car.
we
Sounds like a good
were
plan though.
oh, it was cold. It was freezing cold. But fun.
And what about like hidden gems you could recommend? Any off the beaten map or beaten, what's the saying? Off the beaten track places
Well,
people should check out you wouldn't find in any guidebook, or even restaurants, foods, drinks, things like that.
in Winjo in particular, there's a newsletter called the Winjovian, and I wish I had a copy of it to show you. One of the foreign teachers, he's been there for probably 20 years at this point. That's another thing. I met a lot of other foreign teachers there that have been there for 10 years, 14 years, that they just live there. They're not planning on ever going home, like they consider that home.
Mm.
So he started a newsletter called the Winjovian, and he broke it down to categories like music, sports, antiques, shopping, and things like that, things to do. And all the places that's in the newsletter has to be about, I want to say 10 pages
Is
long.
this
And he
online or only on paper?
I think you may be able to find it online. I've never thought about it. We had the actual news, it looks like a newspaper, and we would just flip through and go through places that way in Windsor. And every place that's in there, he has personally been to or experienced. He has places where you can go get things fixed if your electronics break down, where you can go buy things secondhand, different malls where you got different activities like rock wall climbing in the mall. He's done every single thing that's in that paper himself. So and he was one of our friends also, because the community is small. It's so many, I don't know, there's a lot of waterfalls in Winchell that I would visit. Winchell in and of itself, if anyone visit China, I think they should go to Winchell because it has a lot to offer. Of course, I'm biased because I love Winchell, but I think that city and wherever you go in China, you mention the word Wenzhou, they know the city. So it's a very big deal city. It's a big money city. There's a lot of business people there. It's shoe manufacturing. They do a lot of production of shoes there.
So if your shoes were made in China, they could have been made in Wenzhou.
Yes, most likely. And
Interesting.
Suzhou was big on socks. They were a sock manufacturing city.
Hmm.
So
And what about maybe some things to avoid? Do you have any wisdom about what not to do or say as a teacher in China to make sure it's a good experience?
that's a good question. No, not really. Only because they're very open to discussing most anything. Like other foreign teachers, well, other Chinese teachers would ask us personal questions that as a foreigner in your own country it's like a no-no to ask. How much do you make? They would ask us that, and we were like,
Mm.
and it would be a close friend of yours, and you would have to, nicely say, well, you shouldn't ask me that. And they don't know because they're not, raised that way to
Very
not,
direct
they're
culture, I've
open.
found, right?
Yeah, they're very open. So they'll ask you anything. So as far as what not to do, I would say be wary of the street food.
Oh,
I don't know. Be wary of the street
did
food.
you get sick?
Not from street food. Funny enough, I got sick from a high-end restaurant, Western restaurant that served steaks and ribs and things like that. I got food poisoning, me and a friend of mine, and 2 weeks later, the restaurant was shut down. So we only guessed that a whole lot of people got sick. I was so sick that I thought it was the end. I've never gotten food poisoning before in my life other than that time.
Mm.
So it was horrific. But the street food, why I say stay away from it is because how can I put this nicely? Some of them, the sanitation standards is not what we're used to. It's nothing to be in a car and be driving by and look over, see a street vendor with a big silver catering bowl full of whatever they're frying up on the sidewalk on the ground. And then when they're ready for it, they'll pick it up and throw the stuff in. Like it's just things like
That's
that. So,
yeah, it's a little sketchy. It'd be eating food that
yeah.
was recently on the ground, which makes me
Yeah.
sad because I love street food. It's so cheap and so delicious, and all the times I've had it, I've had so much pleasure from street food. But I see what you're saying.
Well, I ate street food too, so
Maybe know
it's
your
just
vendor. If it's someone you
yeah,
go to
yeah,
regularly and
sure.
you see how they operate.
Because we had vendors on campus of the last school that I told you about, where I actually lived on campus. So I would get my breakfast from them every morning on my way walking to the school side because our buildings were on campus but separate from the school campus side. I mean, I ate street food while I was there too. And not just on campus, I ate it on the streets too. It's just, you have to just, I guess, be mindful, check them out, see what
Wow.
they have going on before you decide to buy from them. But you have to be careful.
Good advice. And something you'll see in a lot of China contracts is like, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics,
Yeah,
don't talk about, I don't know, Tiananmen Square. Do
yeah.
you have any,
Don't talk about Hong Kong
don't talk
in
about,
general. Don't talk about Taiwan. It's certain things that we learn really quickly not to. That's true. I would agree
we'll
with
give
you
you a
on that.
little brief on that, we kind of right when you're starting out.
Yes, they do. They do. I actually was briefed on my last school. I was picked up from the train station when I arrived to the city. I got there at night, and someone from the school will come pick you up, bring you to campus. And on the ride from the train station to the campus, I was given my brief on not to discuss religion. Well, not really. He was probing, I think. He asked me, "Oh, are you religious? What religion are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I would, rather not discuss that." So I think he was testing to see if I would talk about it. And then he went on to then say, "Oh, that's good. You don't want to talk about it. You shouldn't." And so he was testing me, I think, because at
Good
that
for
point
you.
I had been in China for over 3 years. So I guess he was trying to see if I knew what not to
Now,
say.
I have heard like it's not impossible to be religious in China. Like there are churches operating and people go to
There are.
them.
There
And
are. I had foreign friends, a lot of them from Africa. They were students there in China, and they would go to church as Christians in China with other Chinese citizens. But
mm,
I also had a Chinese friend, really close friend. He's a good friend in the foreign community in Wenzhou, and he teach Chinese to foreign teachers, and he teach English also. But he grew up Muslim, and I know it was far away from where we were. It was on the opposite end of the country. And he was tell us these terrible stories about how he could never travel outside of China because of that. Like he's not practicing anymore. That was his childhood. But because of his childhood and his history, his passport was taken away from him. So
wow.
he's not allowed to leave the country. He's written a book. I wish I knew the name. He was, while I was there, actively still writing it. So I would have to get in touch with him to find out what the name of his book is. But he wrote a book about all his experiences and how
We
he
should
just
have him
has
on
this
the
dream.
show. I want to hear that story.
Yeah. Yes, his name is Saki, and he has this dream to go to Florida. He wants to go to Florida, and we would sit at dinner talking about, how he one day would love to get his passport so he can visit Florida, but he doesn't think he's gonna be able to do that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. It's yeah, some of the I guess you'd say the lowlights. There's highlights and there's lowlights, depending on your
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. But I will say I've never felt unsafe in China, not for 1 second of the whole time that I was there. And there would be times where we would be out as friend groups, we would be out late, middle of the night, and we would have get togethers at friends' houses and we would sit around and eat and drink. And then we would disperse. And I remember one night in particular, I couldn't get a taxi because it was late and there was hardly anyone out. And I walked. I walked home in the middle of the night, and I didn't feel unsafe at all. I just
Nice.
never did. It's
Not a
very
lot
low
of
crime in
crime.
China in general, so you do not feel unsafe there.
And obviously, you've been very successful in your job seeking over the years. What advice would you have for new teachers or even experienced teachers looking to land a job in China for the first time?
Well, it's not because I'm on your podcast I'm saying this, but I think going with Oxford seminars is the best thing to do because it was very easy process. Very easy process. And I talk about Oxford seminars to anyone who would listen who's interested in teaching abroad, pretty much. I've given out the information for Oxford seminars to, I don't know, over 20 people probably.
Wow.
I don't know if anyone has ever followed through with it, but I'm glad that's the program that I went with when I decided to get my teaching English as a foreign language certification. And I love it. So Oxford seminars is the way to go if you want
Means
to
means a
teach
lot.
abroad anywhere, not just China.
And speaking of, where are you looking to go for your next teaching adventure?
I would like to go back to China. My initial plan when I first started doing this or teaching abroad was to only teach 1 year in China, 1 year in Taiwan, 1 year in this place, that place, thinking so I can visit a lot of places. But I landed in China and fell in love with China. So and my daughter, I told her that I was thinking about going back to China, and she was supportive, of course, but she was like, why don't you go somewhere different? Why don't you go to Taiwan or South Korea? And I was like, yeah, I should. And then in the next breath, I'm like, no, I'm going back to China. Like, so China for sure. What city? Probably Beijing, because I avoided the bigger cities while I was there. The smaller cities felt, even though, like we said, they're not small, they're still big, but
Hmm.
they felt more cozy, intimate, family like. But now, if I were ever to go back, I think it would be a bigger city like Beijing.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
One thing I think I would say is going to China or any other country, I guess, learning a little bit about their culture, their beliefs, and how they do things is important because it'll help you settle in much easier when you get there. I didn't have a problem settling in, I guess because I was born and raised in New York City, which of course is the melting pot of all different ethnicities. And so I felt right at home there. It wasn't a hard stretch for me, but I did meet people from other places that struggled while they were there because of all the attention that we would get as foreign teachers. A lot of the children, really small children anyway, in certain cities are not used to seeing foreign teachers. So they would stare and just touch your hair and want
Hmm.
to take pictures with you. Spend times where I would be in a taxi and the taxi driver would just reach over and try to touch my hair.
You're like an
Um,
alien.
yeah, yeah. And if they see you there with someone of another race, like a black person and a white person that are friends out shopping, it really would be a circus. Then they would surround us and want to take pictures of us with us and ask us questions. I think
Interesting.
learning a little bit about all of that before you go will help you understand and it also help you be understanding of that sort of thing. So,
I guess a little language
like a
study.
celebrity while I was there. I
Yeah,
must.
nice,
I know
nice.
what celebrities feel like. I felt like a celebrity while I was there.
I guess that's a
So,
nicer perspective than being an alien.
yeah, I mean treat you and look at you like you're an alien. Some of the babies that have never seen a person with white skin or brown skin, they will stare at you like wide eyes. Little babies in the stroller would literally look at you like you're an alien because they're shocked. They've never, because even on TV, they don't have a lot of different races on their TV. It's just Chinese people. So
It's a very
these babies are
homogenous
shocked.
country, I guess.
Mhm.
And I was just saying maybe a little language study wouldn't hurt as well, just some of the basics.
That wouldn't hurt at all. It would, I mean, but when you're there, whatever school you work for, I've never worked for any school that didn't offer free Chinese lessons to their foreign teachers. So the lessons are there for you if you want them, and they're usually free, provided by your school.
Nice.
And they start off slow and and you pick things up from your students. My students got a kick out of teaching me a new word or phrase every day, and then they would laugh at me when I tried to say it. So it was all in good fun. But yeah, the lessons are available to you. They're there, so you can learn. Most foreign teachers that are there more than 3, 4, 5 years are fluent in the language. They learn the language and they can communicate quite nicely, and they love it. They love it. They love foreign people who can speak Mandarin. They
Nice.
like that, and they're very nice people.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It was so great having you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Before we go, I do have a little job placement update for those job seekers who may be listening. I guess colleges and K to 12 schools in China are now wrapping up hiring and training of new spring semester hires, and now is a good time to start applying for fall semester starts for those wanting to go outside of the typical semester start dates. Of course, there are private language schools that hire year round. Those teachers come and go, so you could be teaching in China in June, for example, by applying today. Get in touch with your job placement advisor to start preparing your application. And thanks for tuning in, as always, to the Teaching Abroad Pod. We'll be releasing new episodes monthly for the foreseeable future. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Remember, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the usual places. If you have any great ideas you'd like to hear us discuss in upcoming episodes, please leave them in the comments on YouTube or email us at teachingabroadpod@oxfordseminars.com. Thanks for listening.